The Zoom stream is blank. There we go. Okay. All right. Well, welcome everybody to the February Digital Forum, where we got at least sunny skies. I had 5 or 6 inches of snow from Thursday to Friday. Hopefully everybody else didn't get quite as much, although I heard Milwaukee had quite a bit. We've got, for the second hour today, we're going to be talking about photographers that we tend to follow, either on YouTube or any ways of newsletters and such. I'll be talking about probably my top, well, I've got about 30 guys that I follow, but I'm just going to talk about a couple of them and a couple groups that we work with. Looks like we want everybody to who has questions, please put them either put them in the Q&A if you can. I also see some in the chat, so we'll try to cover both spots. But so we'll just get started. Oh, and next month we're going to have a guest on for the second hour. It's Jennifer Renwick. She is a landscape nature photographer based out in Colorado. Has a little different philosophy. She's more into the peaceful escape from the hectic environment is what her nature tries to provide for her. So we're going to talk to her about how she got started and about her photography and what she likes and doesn't like and all that good stuff. So let's see. Flip around all my screens here so I've got everybody. So let's start with from Rick Hawthorne. He's wondering if anybody has experience with the 15 to 30 f2.8 Tamron G2 lens. Jane, do you? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, no, I don't. I was just trying to regulate my blinds.
Okay. I just see a raised hand. Anybody in our group work with the Tamron? I know Tamron lenses are pretty decent. I haven't worked with that one. I used to work with Tamron when I had a camera store back when. But Rich, it doesn't look like anybody else. If anybody else does, maybe chime in the chat and we'll pass it on. Ken Bowman has he has several hundred 2x2 slides from the 60s and 70s and would like to convert many of them to digital. Has anyone used any of the converters available for this, and do they do a good enough job in creating a good editable digital image? Marty, you're waving away.
A number of years ago, I scanned a whole bunch of old family slides. I used Scan Cafe, so it's a mail order thing. So basically, you package them up, you mail them to an address in California. They then send them overseas to get all scanned, and then I got them back. I think I did about 400 slides, and that was around probably a couple $100 to do it. But I thought the results were very, very good. I was happy with the products we got out of it.
Anybody else done anything? I know Allied Digital Photo in Germantown can do it for you. I don't know what their price is. I think can be about $1 a slide, and they're good enough for on the computer and then I think they also have a high quality scan, depending on, you know, how high quality scan you want to do. Otherwise, you can, if you only have a couple hundred, it probably isn't worth buying a slide scanner for it. It's not like me where I've got 65 140 carousel slide tray. So over 6,000 slides that I'm trying to scan, and I'm doing that with an adapter that attaches to the front of my D850, so I get 40 megapixel scan photos of every slide that you can clean up. But it's taking forever.
I was just going to say the same thing, Jeff. I mean, I think I mentioned to you the other night, I'm working on a project for one of my customers. I've got a Nikon Cool Scan 5000, and it's roughly 5 minutes a scan to go through.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have customer, I don't know, 130 or 40 images to scan into digital, and it's just taking forever.
Yeah. Mine isn't quite so bad because it's as fast as you can slip it into the holder and snap a photo. So I can do 140 slides in about 15 minutes, and they're pretty high quality slides. So Nikon makes a nice attachment, but then you still need a macro lens and a extension tubes, and then a light to light the slides up right. So, but you know, if you've got 6,000 or 7,000, it's cheaper than sending them to Scan Cafe. I am sending my movies to Scan Cafe because it's just too hard to do movies these days. So, hopes that
you're using the ES2 in that Nikon. Is that what you're talking about? That ES2
yeah,
adapter?
Yeah,
okay.
That ES2, it clips onto the front of the macro lens, and
yeah, I picked up a 40 macro, and I got one of the lower end Nikon, the 24 megapixel ones, and it's turned out some pretty good, some nice quality at 24, with that 24 megapixel sensor too. So, but
yeah, it's, I mean, the 850's got a 50 megapixel sensor, so it's a really good. I mean, you could see all the grain real well, but it's
just showed you that the camera lenses of years ago weren't that great. So
no, so it works pretty well, but it's a pain. I do 1 or 2 trays a day, so in another 45 days I should have them all done. Maybe 20 days, but boy, it's hard on the arm too, because you're constantly reaching in and putting that slide in, hitting the shutter button, and then I'm storing them away. And here's a question to everybody. I've got these 6,000 slides, but do I keep these slides after I scan them, or do I just throw them in the garbage?
I can tell you ultimately after we got through all of our family stuff and we whittled down, I don't know, probably from a good couple thousand down to that 400, scanned them, and then when my mom moved, everything went because we had the digital files, so we didn't really worry about it. Everybody in the family got a copy of them too, so that's kind of nice.
Yeah. Well, I'm storing them away currently into archival boxes, but I know that that's a temporary solution, and that once I know, I can then throw my slides out. But and I'm being pretty ruthless in editing those slides too. So
when you scan those slides, are you confident that you're getting all the possible data out of them that you can possibly get? Because otherwise, you might want to rescan them in the future.
Well, I'm taking ones that I find that are really important to me or maybe that I took that I like, that I might want to print. Then I will take and scan those actually on an Epson scanner that I have that will get me a higher quality scan. This is mainly to be able to look at them like I'm putting a slide projector up. So I'm not quite as worried. And that's part of the reason I'm going to save them for a while. But yeah, I've got most of my good slides in a separate booklet, and those will all be high quality scanned either through Scan Cafe or through my Epson V700 slide scanner, which will do even a higher quality, about 100 megapixel, and then you'll be able to see every bit of green there is.
Jeff, my wife's parents took hundreds of slide photos on vacations and family gatherings, whatever. And they dumped them all into these Door County cherry containers that you could get there round and high. You could almost use them as a footstool. Oh. and we have to go through those, and probably 99% of them we're going to toss. But I have 2 slide projectors that I can use when I go through them, which is probably going to be a project in the next few months. So just because we have to start culling stuff,
yeah,
in our little house. So, but anyway, if we have that, is it June in-person get together? If anybody wants an older slide projector, I can give them one.
Yep. Yeah, I got a bunch of them. I also have, if anybody needs, send me an email. I will have 65 140 carousel slide trays if anybody has a need for slide trays. But so far, not too many. I see that in the chat that the Kenosha Public Library has scanning equipment for photos and slides. So slides came out pretty well, according to, I think that's Kathy Brown. Ken Cena said he used a Wolverine F2D Mighty filmed a digital converter. It's manual, but it only costs $35, so that's not too shabby. So there's a lot of different ways to do it, depending on how much work you have. Yeah, Scan Cafe, once you sign up for their newsletter, they do a lot of discounts. So I think I know I'm going to use them for movies. Unfortunately, though, I have 16 millimeter movies that I think I must have about 8,000 feet of it, and it's expensive to do movies. So, but I want to get those done because we mainly shot movies. We went from shooting slides to shooting movies for a few years, and then we went to shooting prints, and then back to slides. So, and I think
I had scanned some movies that are about, well, when my son was a baby, and he's in his late 40s, so that was about 45 years ago. And I had them scanned. It was on film, and I had them scanned in the late 90s. And I'm glad that I kept the originals. I want to go back. The quality is so much better of the scanning today. I want to go back and rescan them. But the analog film is losing its quality. So
yeah, I've got a lot of fungus on the slides that I have. I'm afraid to pull those movies out because they're on 1,000-foot reels, and there are tons of splices in there because you took it at 100 feet at a roll. So I know most of those splices are going to be bad, and I don't know if I can even find splicing material anymore.
Jeff,
so
I had a Sony movie camera, video camera that used the small cassettes. So it was like I forget what you call it. It was tape, and it captured I could connect it to the computer, run it into Vegas as an AVI file. But then but the connector on the Sony camera broke, inside the camera. And it cost me almost $400 to fix it. And it only lasted 3 months. So I had to look around for something else. And I found a company called South Tree in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And they were very reasonable. And at that time, I keep a couple of times a week, I'd get an email from them, and their prices have gone up. But I had several dozen converted into data files, and they put them on DVD for me. If that converting them to data was a little more expensive than having to make a DVD out of it, which you couldn't edit. So, but South Tree has these sales a couple times a week. Apparently they're desperate for, but it's not inexpensive. But the files that come out on the DVDs they send you as data are very good.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take too long.
Yep. A lot of different places. It's I'm constantly researching it out to see what's good out there. And I know Scan Cafe's been around a long time, so that's why I've been using them, or gonna be using them more. And it's good to hear that Marty's used them. So, yeah, great.
A lot of comments in the chat about Scan Cafe. That's interesting.
Yeah, they're a pretty big outfit. They've been doing a lot of stuff. So,
Been around a long time.
yeah, I would trust them.
Something like that. I think since the 1800s or something like that, they've been around.
Oh, you think? But
I got a question.
Sure. Yeah.
I realize this is kind of old business, but I was just curious about one thing. Last week, you and Marty were talking about websites.
Yep.
And you were talking about selling your photos. And you obviously use Squarespace, and Jeff and Marty, I forget which one you were using, but I take it both of yours are not e-commerce. Is that correct? You don't buy.
I guess the program I'm using right now for selling is a company called Slickpick, and
Okay, that was it.
And it's an e-commerce site. I mean, anytime you're selling something, on a website, it's e-commerce.
I realize it. But what I'm saying is the initial website without the slick pick, you're not paying for an e-commerce price for that.
Correct. Yeah, and actually
Okay.
that would be true with Weebly, with Squarespace, with Square. Usually when you add in the e-commerce component, there are higher charges for that on those websites.
Okay. So do they just sell pictures? Is that it?
Slickpick?
Yeah.
Actually, you can build a full website on there. You can just use the galleries as just showcase, rather than selling through that. So you can share galleries either publicly or privately. So the way I got into Slickpick is they offered a deal through PSA that you can sign up for free for an account, and which I did, and then I tested it out as far as just loading images for galleries, then able to share the galleries, so like links from my website back to those galleries. It wasn't until I decided to sell pictures through there that I actually paid for a subscription for Slickpick.
Well, the reason I'm asking is I'm redoing the website for Menominee Falls Historical Society, and I come across a page that I'd like to set up for membership, and I'd like to set that up so that they can pick their membership type they want, and then just push a button to pay for it.
So that's a little different, Pat.
Yeah. Okay.
If you were to use, say, Squarespace or Weebly, for instance, using PayPal, integrating PayPal into that, you don't really need to set up a quote unquote e-commerce site by doing that. And that
Okay,
would
that's
be
what
the
I-
best way to do that.
That was my next choice, thinking about doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably could do it through PayPal. At least you can create buttons and do a number
Right.
of different things to collect fees.
They have a PayPal account, and I've done it for donations
Yeah,
on the old
yeah,
site.
and
So
yeah, so you could do that. I'm
You can
thinking
utilize the
that
same account too. So you just set up a new button using the same account. So all the
Right.
financial aspect is already there for you.
right,
Go ahead, sorry.
Squarespace is starting to add a bunch of stuff for doing subscription type, sort of like what you're talking about, where you can collect a fee yearly for membership and all that. I'm not familiar with how it works. I'm still in the process of researching it.
And I think
But-
what I've seen, Jeff, on videos, because I've watched quite a bit of video on Squarespace now. I think that it's going to be an add-on charge, and you're better off.
Yeah, yeah.
You integrate PayPal, you're just much better off doing it. You can set up, if you needed to, on Squarespace, you can set up a members-only page, which is different than their subscription page, like you're talking about.
Yeah. The only thing with a subscription page that would be nice, depending if the fee is affordable for you, would be that it would do things more automatically. So every year it would rebill the person for where PayPal is going to be a manual setup. I don't think PayPal has a subscriptions thing yet.
I don't know that they do, but like with our club, we just tell everybody when it's time to renew, you just go
Yeah.
there, fill out the little form and renew, so I don't know that it needs to be, especially for smaller groups, needs to be automated.
Yeah. Well, and I think, right, Pat, the Historical Society only does that, renews once a year, right?
that's correct.
And
Yeah,
same in January. So that would make it easier, because then you just would need a renew button or something
right.
on the website.
This is kind of like for the guy that goes to the site and says, "Oh, I'd like to join," so he just fills out the form and pays for it. Now he's a member.
Yeah.
So okay, that's
Yeah. You could create the form easy enough, and at the bottom of the form, you could do a PayPal button for the
Right.
payment part.
that was going to be my other option. I just thought maybe there was another place that was a little slicker, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's some that are slicker, but they're gonna slick you out of some money too.
well, yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay, guys,
Yeah,
thank you.
Sure. Check out Squarespace's subscription stuff, though. It might work for you, and it may not be that expensive.
Okay,
I haven't looked at it that close yet.
okay, thanks a lot.
Sure. Anybody else have questions?
Yeah, I'll have a question.
Sure.
On the subject of websites also, so say last month when we saw how to set up our, or what web builder to go with, but what kind of, say, suggestions would you have for setting up a website just for, say, portfolio? I wouldn't be doing, say, running a business off it. I probably wouldn't count on selling a lot of pictures or anything like that, but what would it, or how would you, say, set it up so that for a photography site, I guess, in general?
Yeah. Are you using Lightroom or Adobe products?
Yeah, I have Photoshop. I don't, or I have Lightroom, but I use Bridge more
Okay.
so than Lightroom.
Because, then you could set up the free portfolio site that Adobe has. That wouldn't cost you any money.
Any additional money?
Any additional money, other than your currently normal subscription fee.
Yeah, but I guess my question is how would you format it? Would you have like galleries where you would click on, say, the buttons to look at, say, your various galleries, or something like that?
Yeah, that's
And I think in part though, I think that's going to depend on which platform you go with on how that gets achieved. They all kind of work a little differently for that, but you know, and there are other platforms you can look at, something like Zenfolio or SmugMug, like that.
Yeah, I have Zenfolio, and that's what I'm doing it with, and I don't know if I'm, say, real satisfied with how I have it now, so I don't know. You know, it's one of them where you have say your website set up and you're proud as a peacock, and then somebody else looks at it and they're like, oh, what the heck is that?
Yeah. Well, this is mine now. I mean, mine is somewhat of a commercial site, but it really, I don't do that much, but I do have a fine art section where I actually sell from using Fine Art America. But my galleries, I break those down into, I decided different states because it was the easiest way for me to do it. So I have a Florida gallery, a Minnesota, Nebraska, but you could break that down into, you know, nature, landscape, whatever you'd like. And, you know, then you just, usually the galleries can be set up. I have it so that they're individual images. With Squarespace, you can set up the gallery so that you can look at them as a group or one at a time, pretty much full screen. Or you can do slideshows. Squarespace has a couple of different setups. And I have quite a few different states that I've been in, and then I also break it down into some special nature, racing. I mean, you can group it up any different way that you want.
Jeff, does Squarespace allow you to, can you set it up to sell those photos very easily?
Well, I actually, to sell my photos, I use Fine Art America, and I can take, and here's the Fine Art America site, which is built right into my Squarespace site. So you can then look at the different photos, click on it, and then it gives you different information. And let's see.
I have mine on SmugMug, and you can turn on selling or not selling prints. And it cost me about $79 a year now. It's gone up. How much are you paying for your Squarespace?
Well, Squarespace, I'm paying $216 a year, and Fine Art America costs me $35 a year. So Fine Art America, and the nice part is, yeah, these two I didn't have anything loaded up for selling, but here with Fine Art America, I can sell wall art, and I have different canvas, framed prints, all sorts of different stuff. They've got pillows, stationery, phone cases, towels, mugs, and even apparel. So
I'll mention this though, Drama. So Squarespace doesn't really have a dedicated way to sell images. They have a way to sell a lot of products, but images are a little different. You almost need more specialized software like what Zenfolio, SmugMug, SlickPick. They're designed to sell pictures through those. So it's a little bit different. So what Jeff is doing and what I do on my site is I link from my main site to an external sales site. And that's exactly what Jeff is doing here.
So
Yeah.
you're using Squarespace too?
No, I use Weebly for my main site, and then I use Flickr for my sales.
Hey,
Well, it sounds-
let's get back to Bernard's question. You know, he's on Zenfolio, and he can set up galleries there just like Jeff is showing us here. So what would Bernard like to get out of Zenfolio that he's not achieving? That's what I'm trying to understand. If we go back to Bernard,
Yeah.
if we may for a moment.
Sure.
Please.
Yeah. Well, I can
You
show
can create
you,
galleries in Zenfolio,
yeah,
like Jeff has.
yeah, because here I'll go to my screen. Okay. Are you seeing my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So this is what I got right now. So I have the portfolio. It's being a little sluggish. Yeah. So I do have, some galleries set up here. The blog, I don't really have too much on there about, it doesn't have that much, in contact information is, just kind of basic stuff. But I guess, is there a better way to set this up? Because now this does have, where you can set this up, and it'll be the slideshow, or you can click on the various pictures like that.
What are you trying to achieve, or what are you unhappy with? That's what I'm trying to understand. You've got your basic galleries. People can see things within your galleries.
And you can press the play button for a slideshow too.
Yeah.
I see.
Right.
So you're just looking for a different kind of look for your.
Yeah, and I guess, is there a better way to do this, or is this fairly par for the course, or on how somebody would do it without say, I'm not looking, say, for sales right now. I mean, I can
Right.
add that on, of course, or whatever.
Right.
But I was just, I guess, just a little self-critical on, is this, say, fairly decent, or is there a better way to do this? I guess.
Well, again, I think part of that is just platform related. I mean, for Zenfolio, that's pretty much the way it's designed to display like you have there. If I recall correct, it's been a long time since I've been in that, but it's a nice presentation. It puts people where they need to be. I know that, like, on your homepage of that, in the settings, you can go in and change colors and things, and fancy up that way. I would add, if you don't have anything on your About Us page, I would certainly put a little bio there. That's Zenfolio is kind of a combination of a website and gallery presentation, so you can use it for both things and be very effective with it.
Oh.
I would think that there would be different skins that Zenfolio allows too, because SmugBug, I mean, I can choose any look and feel just by looking at the different designs they have and pick one for my galleries. So they're competitive with the Zenfolio, so I would think Zenfolio would provide that.
Yeah, they have different templates that you could look at the different templates if you're not happy with the one that you're using.
This is the one that I have, and I haven't looked at the various ones, and this one seems to be closest to what I was looking for. But I don't know. I guess after a while, I just
Bernard,
didn't know if I liked it.
Bernard, can I get a general ballpark figure of how much you're paying a year for Zenfolio?
They just raised their price. I don't have the cheapest, but I think it's like the second cheapest, and that's $66 a year. Now I have my URL is done through GoDaddy, So that's, outside of the Zenfolio.
That's around 20 bucks, right? That's pretty standard.
Yeah.
Your domain name.
Yeah.
It's we talk about comparisons. I use SmugMug also. I think I prefer the appearance of the way I've got SmugMug set up. I think it looks a little more professional. I really haven't shopped the different templates on Zenfolio for a long time. I've been in there for a long time. The one thing I like about Zenfolio over SmugMug is that when you have videos, for some reason, the videos seems to flow a little better in a slideshow. As I recall, that's been some years since I checked that out. So, SmugMug is a popular one. If you don't like the look of Zenfolio, you might. But then you have to transfer all your photos. So I guess is the pain worth the gain to move from one spot to another.
SmugMug used to be very customizable. I think they've reduced the amount you can customize. But when I set it up, I had a slideshow on my main page that showed the pictures that I chose that's in my gallery. That's a little harder to do now, but I mean, the customization made it where you can make it look the way you wanted.
Yeah, you can create an opening slideshow on Zenfolio too.
I have a question about these various websites. Can you make them private to put photos up to various family members and videos that they can download?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can have your own access password to some of the web pages within your website.
Thank you.
Someone's asking about Flickr. Flickr is owned by SmugMug now, and there's been some question over the last few years since they've owned it of what they're going to do with it. But you don't have the abilities in Flickr to do the kind of presentations that you can do in the regular SmugMug accounts.
No. SmugMug or Zenfolio both look like they have templates just like everybody else these days. I know I had SmugMug for quite a while. I just got frustrated at the way that you had to set up each page, but that's also was quite a few years ago, and I would imagine they've made it a lot easier than it was when I used to be with them. And that's when I ended up going to the Squarespace site. But
so Jane, it's a good question about do any of these sites show basically analytical data, traffic you're getting? I guess I can't say for sure on SmugMug or Zenfolio, but on traditional websites like Squarespace and Weebly, they certainly do.
Yeah, I think they do on SmugMug. I've not tracked it, but I don't usually look. But you can go in. I was just looking to see if I could, and track what's going on. I don't bother that much anymore.
You could do it with a Google tracker, easy enough.
Or you could get it from GoDaddy or whoever
right
your URL.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of different ways you could do it. I know for a while, my SmugMug site, I had Google's, it was Google or Status Master or something that would monitor the site and show me how many new customers and old customers were coming to the page and what pages they were going to, how long they were staying there. Some of that was free, and then the more detailed info would cost me money. So there are ways to do it. Squarespace does have a graph that you can get, but then I also have it set up with Google, which is a free service to show me how much traffic is coming. So sometimes it all depends what you're using your website for, whether you need that info or not. But Let's see, we got what file type and size do I upload? I upload 2100 pixels on the long side for my files. Mainly they'll fill up a screen for most screens if you go full page.
It also has
So-
to do with whether you're printing or not. If you, yeah, I usually do 1500 to 2000 on the long side unless I'm printing. But if you're printing, depending on what size that you're printing, you're gonna have to upload larger files than that.
Right. You're right, Jerma. Yeah, if you're using their service to be able to sell, then I'm uploading a full-size JPEG file, which can be 20 or 30 megabytes in size. When I had my SmugMug site and I used to sell from that, yeah, then I was uploading a full-size file, a full-size JPEG file. If you're just displaying it on a website, then 2100 pixels is more than enough because most screens aren't more than 1920 pixels. Although now we're getting into the 2K, 4K video screens, which then would then you might want to end up going to a larger size pixel.
Also, it takes longer for, you know, with the higher resolution, if you got these higher resolution monitors, it takes a long time for the website to load your pictures into, so you got a lag of time.
Yeah, sometimes, Clint, but not always, because the website, at least SmugMug did, and so does Squarespace, they adjust the file size depending on the screen that it is. So
Oh, okay. Did not know that.
they're only loading what they need to load for it. And then when you go to, if you're selling something like on SmugMug, then they just take that full size to make the image. So no, so getting back to Bernard, does that help?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
take a look at their other templates too. Zenfolio's got quite a few different templates for, you know, but
Yeah.
I do like the gray backgrounds better. I'm starting to, I'm actually with my website going to be looking at changing the background color out of white. I was using white for the longest time because that was popular. That seems to be going away. So I'm probably going back to gray, which is what you had, which I think shows off the pictures pretty nice that way. But
Bernard, I would suggest is maybe checking out some YouTube channels on your software that you use.
yeah, that might actually help you figure out some of the better ways to do galleries.
Because Squarespace has some wonderful YouTube channels, you know, some YouTube people that do some great, fantastic jobs on detailing step by step, you know, how to use Squarespace.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think you could find the same thing for Zenfolio, because Zenfolio is a pretty good site for hosting your photos. I know we each all have sort of different needs, and Zenfolio had a problem with videos for a while. For a while, they did videos better than SmugMug did them better. And then I got to the point where I go, well, my videos now get hosted on Vimeo. Although the videos for like this group and others were using YouTube because it's free. So, you know, if you're into video, then that gets to be a different thing. With stills, I think Zenfolio or SmugMug work pretty well. Plus, there are other freebie or less expensive ones, but no. But yeah, check out the templates. You might find a better template for. I was trying to look to see. They have quite a few different templates with different gallery styles that they do.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I haven't changed it in a while, so I was,
yeah,
you know, just checking to see if there's something that I might like better too.
yeah, Yeah, because it looks like they constantly add new ones, and it looks like they've got some custom ones that, you can figure out your own setup, but that tends to get into a lot of work because as soon as you go custom, it's
Yeah.
you're pretty much laying it all out yourself, which is what SmugMug was when I was doing it. They didn't have that much in templates, and I was basically laying out every page, and
They do
I
now.
just I got
They do
tired
now.
of that. Yeah.
They do now. They also have, I was just checking my account, and under the account settings, there's a statistics on the menu. And I clicked on it, and you can actually, apparently, I don't know if you want to see this or not, but
Sure.
let me share real quick. So here is the menu with Google Analytics under there under stats. And it says go get a Google Analytics, a free one, and then there's a start counter and a security ID. It says stat counter is another free option for tracking visits
Yeah.
to your site.
And I was using Stat Counter. That was the one that I used when I had SmugMug.
Yeah.
For Wacko and that, we're using the Google Analytics on 2 of the sites. My personal site, I'm still using Stat Counter because it's free, and they give some pretty good stuff every month I can check to see. So that can be handy. It can also be depressing. You don't see many people, and I'm not doing much with my website, so I don't get many new people showing up because you got to have ways to drive people to your site too. So I hope that helps you out, Bernard, a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a constant struggle, I think.
Yeah.
And it doesn't hurt either to refresh the look of your website periodically. One of the things that the almighty Google does do is they're always looking to make sure, like, let's say you built a website and you added your images and you got it like the way you want it, and you don't do anything with it for a year. Well, your search rankings go down and down and down. The more activity you have, even on the back end of your website, making little changes here and there, that helps keep your site viable in Google's eyes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense because then your website's not dormant. It's like, oh, is this place still, still website up and running and that. So it's kind of nice to always updating the content that you have.
Right. Jeff, I'm going to steal the screen and just to give people an idea, like on Weebly, all the different themes they have available, and you can kind of pick by category. So if you wanted to do a portfolio website, they've got some templates already built for that. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can just kind of go in and change content out as you go. So it's kind of nice that it's already there for you to start with. So it's some of that building process out of the equation then. And that's true with Squarespace, Square, most of the website building programs will give you something similar to start with today.
Yep. No, and it's Zenfolio and SmugMug are nice because it gives you an easy option if you end up wanting to sell, because you've got their labs that can do the printing and the shipping and the selling, and everything's all in one. Whereas Squarespace and I think Weebly, you need to use a third-party seller to do it. But like I said, for me, Fine Art America works just fine. I just dump in a bunch of code, and it looks just like my website. You wouldn't know that you're leaving my website when you go to it. Now, if I change the format of my site, which I'm hoping to do one of these days, I have to see if I can figure out how to change it in Fine Art America as well. But
I have a question on your fine art. Let's say I have a 4 megapixel camera well, I won't be able to do a print like a billboard size. Do they have a limit on what size you can? Do they predetermine, or can you predetermine what size print that you can do?
You can predetermine how big of a print you want to go to.
Okay.
So yeah, so the smaller files like that, you know, you're only looking at an 8x10 or smaller.
Yeah, 8x10 is good enough for, you know, the 4 megapixel, but if you want to do a 16x20, well, you can't do it with a 4 megapixel
Nope.
camera.
Some labs can if they really, you know, if you work with them right, but yeah, not most of the ways. There are ways to get it up because I've I've done it, but I don't like doing it.
So to sell your pictures, and that you actually kind of have to use, I call it like a third party, use like our fine art first, then transfer that stuff to Squarespace? Or
Yeah, I'm not sure about Marty. Does SlickPick? Can you
So-
embed their code into a website?
Yeah, you can. If I wanted to embed my sales site directly into it rather than just linking to it, I could do that. But to kind of go back to what you're referring to there, Clint. So the way I work mine is I don't actually have my images go directly to a lab when they order it. I receive an order, and then I do my editing, my color correction, cropping, whatever, and then I forward it to the lab, and then it gets direct shipped to my customer from that. So that way, all the files that are on my sales site are all just low res files, just for viewing purposes. And then it doesn't matter how big of a print they want to order. I'll size that accordingly on my end then.
okay, thank you.
See, Jeff,
So anybody?
we did this last month and we thought, boy, we could do a whole nother month on that, and we are.
No,
Yeah, just about.
I was thinking that because there are really great questions on the websites. I really like the idea that you can, you know, which we didn't really cover, you know, because my voice wasn't working at the time, but I really like the idea that you can have a password protection. A lot of these professional photographers have a specific area where it's only customers only, so you need a password, which I like. You know, you can set it up for families and that, so only the families can look at your family photos.
Right, and not everybody else is correct. Yeah,
Correct.
and most of these programs are capable of doing pages or galleries that way. That's correct.
Yeah, you can. I know SmugMug has a way to make a gallery private, and I'm pretty sure Zenfolio does, and Squarespace does, Weebly, all the different ones usually have some way to do a private
Right.
site. So, any other questions?
Do we have the one in QA here? Oh, the Flickr version. Does anybody use the free Flickr version? I think we covered that a little bit, didn't we?
Yeah, I use Flickr. I don't know why. And actually, for some reason, I'm still on a paid version of Flickr, which I should really get off of, because I don't think the paid version gets me anything more than the free version does. Does anybody, if so, do you know if anybody that can access Flickr can download the photo file? I don't believe they can download the photo file. They can screen capture the file. They can pretty much do it, but I don't believe you can right click on a Flickr file and be able to download it or save it. So Mark B, I'm not sure, are you looking for that possibility, or are you wanting to make sure that nobody can download the file? Because it's sort of two different type of questions. But I don't believe you can download Flickr images. Gotta admit, I haven't tried that for quite a while. And I actually not even... Let's see, I can... tell you in a second here. I hate to say my Flickr site is old. God. Actually, here we go. Here's my photo stream.
I know for me, what I'd like to do is with my photography for the air show, sometimes the publisher wants some pictures and that, and I like to set up, when I get my website from Squarespace, I like to have set up a password protection, so only the publisher can go in there, look at the pictures, and I like to get the publisher to, you know, right click and save the picture so they can publish pictures in that.
Well, it looks like you can download the photo. I'm not quite sure. Yeah.
Well, Flickr might be recognizing you as
Well,
your
yeah,
owner.
Just
I
gonna say-
went to.
Send me a
I
link
went-
to your Flickr and I'll try it here on my end.
Yeah, I have to figure out how to. I don't even know what it is. So,
Okay.
Flickr.com. It's KPW 1255. But yeah, I'm trying. I did one by Jerry Hug, and there is a download button where you can download and view all sizes and download the original size file.
That's not protected. That doesn't sound right.
No. So yeah, I just downloaded. I follow Jerry Hug because he has nice iPhone photos. And yep, yeah. So it looks like you can download them now. Maybe you can protect them. I'm sort of surprised at that.
Well, when I just tried to download one of yours, I found your site, Jeff, your Flickr site. When I tried to download it, it basically downloaded an HTML file, not the picture.
Okay.
Well, how do I open it though? Let's see what it opens as. Yeah, it doesn't open as a file, so it downloaded.
Well, I was able to download Jerry Hug's. He's got a nice lighthouse image.
There might be
But
ways it's got it set up too, you know. There might
Yeah, it could be the way that it's set up. I probably have my stuff protected.
It's hard to imagine that the site doesn't allow you the option of protecting it. It's hard
Yeah.
to imagine.
in this day and age, Brian, you're right. Yeah,
5 years ago, it's hard to imagine.
yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Oh, they seem to have changed all this again because now they've got galleries, but I've got everything in albums. So, so yeah, I haven't been doing much on my Flickr site. So, yeah, I've got I can see the download symbol for me, but I think that's just for me to be able to download the images. So,
Yeah.
um,
Well, actually,
but yeah, it might be a security setting in there for it.
actually, Jeff, I have the download button for you too here, and it gives me a whole bunch of different sizes. Now, whether it lets me download or
Yeah,
not,
see if you can download.
that's what I'm looking at right now here.
In Zenfolio and SmugMug, you can protect all your albums.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was just looking at my SmugMug, and when I go to a gallery and click on settings, it gives you the right to, there's a photo protection area, and it has download, it has you can turn on and off download buttons. And if I click on, then it says the next thing is require a password, and you can turn that on and off. So
Yeah,
Is
Jeff, what I'm downloading is HTML files. It's not the picture file.
okay. See, For Jerry Hug, I actually got a JPEG.
Yeah, so there
Which
must
was-
be a setting that he doesn't have.
So there must be a setting. I'll maybe mention that to him too.
Yeah.
I'm looking at, you can share it to different sites.
I did do a screenshot, Jeff, and I can get a nice screenshot out of it. So
Yeah. And I've never worried about that because you can do that on just about all of them. I don't think you can right click on. I know Squarespace, you can't right click on it, but you still, almost all of them you can do screenshots. Okay, yeah. Under account settings, there is a global setting that who can download your images, including the originals, and I've got mine set for only me. So you can set that in the account settings on whether you want to allow people to download them or not. There's quite a few security settings for that.
So that's a global setting for the entire site?
For
Or
the
just
entire
per album?
Flickr,
Okay.
for the entire Flickr site, my own.
And Zenfolio, you can do that per album.
Okay. Yeah. And it's sort of nice in some ways. Only I can download it. Friends and family can download it, or people you follow, anybody. And they recommend anyone should be able to download your stuff.
Of course they do.
I like that being the recommended setup. But Flickr is a nice way to be able to show off your photos simply. I ended up with it just because I needed a group I was working with wanted, that's how you shared your photos, was through Flickr. So that's it. Yeah, so Mark B, the download symbol appears, but if depending on the security settings that you have, you all you can do is, I think you get a link to the site if you do a download, unless you allow people to download it. So hopefully that's answered all your questions on the Flickr stuff. I got to admit, it's something I haven't used for a while, so. Oh, okay, well, let me go into the second hour here.
Yeah, I was going to make a comment before we go into the second hour. I don't know if anyone uses Luminar or Skylum software, but they were getting ready to come out with a new release. And apparently that release is going to be delayed because that software is being created in Ukraine.
Actually, Neo did come out, and it sounded like some of the features weren't quite ready for prime time yet, but the software did release. But you are correct. They built it from the ground up again, which is what they did between 4 and AI also. So
that's the one that they were getting ready to release.
The Neo is the one that they released. They just released. Yeah.
Yeah, that's been shut down now.
Okay. Yeah. I hadn't heard, but
I'm not getting it, so I haven't been paying attention to it. I've reached a point that I can't stick another plugin into my head on how they work. I can't remember the current plugins that I'm using and how they all work, and I'm just staying with Photoshop and Lightroom. So
yeah, me too, pretty much. I use Topaz, but
yeah, I've got Topaz for a few things. And I still use Nick filters for some stuff, but that's I've really cutting back on all these plugins. At first, it was getting too expensive, and second, I just couldn't remember how half of them work anymore. So
I'm finding I don't need them. As I learn more and more about Photoshop, I do it. Most of the stuff I can do myself, and I have Nick filters too, but I don't use them much anymore.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what I'm finding, that Photoshop and Lightroom can do so much for me now that I'm happy that way.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, I've got a short presentation, and then, let's see, which way do I want to do this? I think we'll do it this way. Just in case. So, I couldn't decide what to talk about, so I thought let's talk about the different photographers and different photo groups that we may be following. And I've got a number of them. Like I said, when I finally wrote them all down, I had over 30 different photographers that I sort of follow. But I picked sort of my top ones that I'm following right now. So first I'll start with probably my most favorite guy is Matt Kloskowski. He does Lightroom on one, Photoshop, and he's the one that I get most of my information from. He has a great YouTube channel that he shares, but he also has a lot of good photo courses that you're able to purchase from him on Photoshop, Lightroom, and he's a big on-one user. This is his Lightroom or his YouTube channel. And he has quite a few more videos than what's just showing here. So I just did a quick screenshot of some of the stuff. He's always great on letting you know what the newest stuff for the updates for the different programs are. And then he has his courses and full courses in Lightroom, Photoshop. He is not really a professional photographer. He's a professional educator. And he says that in his bio. He's not really a working pro, but he's one that's been teaching this stuff for a long time. And that's what his current day job is just teaching. He used to be with Kelby One. He split off from them a number of years ago. And he really does a great job on teaching Photoshop and Lightroom.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Very good.
Now, a newer guy, and he's sort of related because Blake Rudis and Matt Kloskowski, Blake and Matt got together, and they're both been working sort of on the same thing. Blake Rudis his website is f64academy.com. He also has a YouTube channel. He comes at this from photography in a whole different way. It's more of a art, and he actually went to school for art. So he knows painting and that, and he comes at working on your photos from the art point of view. He has a bunch of really nice YouTube classes that are free for you to watch. Plus, he also has a bunch of different courses, of course, that you can buy. And he has a brand new one out that sounds sort of interesting. But if you follow his YouTube stuff, it's more of dealing with color and how to direct your eye in the photo more. So he does a nice job. Again, his whole goal is to teach Photoshop, Lightroom, and different ways to get good photos. I don't believe he really is like a professional photographer. He's more of a professional educator as well. But you can check out his websites and that. I will drop. I've got a PDF file of this whole thing with all the links being active so that everybody can actually go and check them out. Colin Smith is another one for Photoshop. that I follow quite a bit. He has also a YouTube channel called Photoshop Cafe, and his website is Photoshop Cafe. He has a lot of good tutorials. He is more into composite type photography.
He does a lot of
Um,
drone too. I've learned a lot of I've got some of his videos on drone, how to do drone photography, and he's big in that too.
yeah, yeah, he does. He has quite a bit of interesting stuff. He's another one that when I have a Photoshop question, I'll tend to look at his site. If Matt doesn't have it, he will. And he's got a lot of creative stuff on doing composite type photography. He's really into the composite stuff as well as, yeah, some of the drone things. So he gets into the retouching. They all have a lot of the Photoshop stuff, um, but he has quite a few others. And he's been doing this a long time, and he used to sell the courses on DVDs, and then it went to downloads. Now with YouTube, everything's pretty much there, but he's got a lot of good stuff. And he's from New Zealand, or actually from Scotland, and moved to New Zealand, and now he lives here in the States. But he's an interesting guy, fun to listen to. Tim Gray, another great one on Photoshop. You probably tend to see a trend here because most of these guys are Photoshop and Lightroom. Tim does a lot more, though, as regular photography. He has graylearning.com that's pretty good. He has a newsletter. Here is his Tim Gray TV, which has a bunch of different courses, and then you can also buy into has a lot of subscription type stuff. He has a nice newsletter called Pixology, and then of course he has Lightroom and Photoshop. And he's been doing this for a long time as well. This guy just started following about a year ago, Glenn Dewis. He's getting into a lot more of the drone photography. He's more of a portrait photographer. Actually, that's really what he was doing until COVID hit, and when portrait photography sort of took a dive here during COVID, he's gotten into a lot of other stuff. His portraits are interesting. He's got a lot of stuff. He's gotten into drones, so he's talking about drone photography. But he gets into a lot of, his portraits are a little more crunchy looking. It's an interesting look to his portrait stuff. So he's one that I think is worth looking at. He's with Kelby One as well, so he does that. He's got books out on Photoshop, but his YouTube stuff, I find his portrait stuff very interesting, and the way he creates some of the portrait looks is pretty good. All these guys believe in sharing their knowledge, which is sort of nice. Now I've got a lot of other photographers here that I follow, and I was going to keep doing what I did for this first group. This first group is the ones that I pay attention to quite a bit. Terry White is with Adobe, and he does a really nice job with teaching Adobe courses. Jason Odell, who we're having as a Wacko speaker next Saturday. So if anybody hasn't signed up for that, you still got a week to sign up. It's $20. Jason will be talking about the landscape photography and long exposure photography on Saturday from 9 o'clock till about noon, 1 o'clock. He's been doing this for a long time. He's pretty interesting. Chris Owig is another one. He's a nature. Most of these guys are nature photographers. Steve Parray, I was following him quite a bit because he's a Nikon photographer and had a lot of good books on Nikon. He's now switching over to Sony, and so he's starting to create more info on Sony cameras. But he's a good nature photographer, so there's a lot of good tips on nature photography from Steve Parray. Ian Plant, who Wacko had a number of years ago, is great on landscape photography, especially wide-angle landscape. For astrophotography, I've been following Peter Zelenka. I found he had a lot of nice tips on processing astrophotography. So he's the one that I sort of go to when I'm shooting the Milky Way. Moose Peterson for nature photography and also for aircraft photography. Plus he's a Nikon guy, so I tend to follow more Nikon people. Adam Jones, who does great stuff with nature photography, although he's a Canon shooter, but still follow him quite a bit. Plus he has some nice frog and close-up little frog type reptile workshops that are sort of nice. Brian Hansel, which we just had last year, pretty good at nature and landscape photography. Hank Erdmann has a nice, he just does a nice newsletter once a month. He's actually going to be talking to our camera club in about, I think it's 2 months from now. So he's pretty good at just general photography. Dan Anderson, nature photographer up in Door County. Also a good drone photographer. I got a lot of, I think, good information on drone photography from him. Julianne Koss for Adobe products. Mike Motes for macro photography. So those are the photographers that I tend to follow. And actually I have more. Actually one new one that I just found about 3 days ago. Kim Illman, K-Y-M, and then his last name is Illman. He's an F1 racing photographer. And I found him very interesting. He gives a lot of behind-the-scenes looks at racing photography, the F1 racing race cars. He's been really interesting to follow the last few days. So let me go on with photo groups. I think a lot of the people here have probably used Creative Live. It's where I tend to pick up, and this is my page, some of the courses that I've subscribed or purchased, and I buy a lot of them just to try to figure out how to do things. Stuff that some of it's free, some of it that I've purchased. Kelby One training. They've gotten a little expensive depending on which category you sign in. I've been Kelby One, which is Scott Kelby, is the guy that I used to go to every one of their Photoshop World classes. It was the best way to learn Photoshop and Lightroom, plus have a great time mainly in Las Vegas. They would hold it, and I tell you, some of their photo shoots that they did and the training that they had was, I had more fun with that. Nowadays, everything's online, but he still has pretty good stuff. I'm still at the old price of $99 a year, where right now he's up to $20 a month, which what is that, $240 a year. So I'm still grandfathered in at his old rate, which I don't mind, since being signed up with all these different groups, what I'm finding is I don't have enough time to watch all these videos. Another one out of Chicago, they do have their live conference coming up, March 11th to the 13th. The conference is, I believe, $300, but is loaded with content if you're looking for something like that. Chris Smith from there runs that, and they have a ton of great photographers. It's a great place for learning all sorts of stuff photography wise. I just watched a video for by Ann Belmont on macro photography. Actually, it was photography at the Chicago Botanical Gardens. Brian Latimus, Ken Morning, and I just went down Thursday and photographed the orchids at the Chicago Botanical Gardens. So that was pretty interesting. Brian and Ken already have their photos out. I only have 2 photos done out of the 1,800 I took, so I've got a ways to go. Nampa is another nature group that I belong to. They're big in conservation, but they also have a lot of good info on nature photography. So if you're looking for a good nature group to belong to, Nampa is one of those that you can follow. It's about $100 a year, so it's not cheap, but have a lot of good photographers in there and a lot of good learning. Since I'm Nikon, Nikonians is another one. They have a lot of good videos going and help me learn how to use the camera. B&H Photo has a ton of stuff on videos. Also a great place to spend money, I guess, although I do use Adorama over B&H more. And I think I'm about at the end here with Dave Cross is another one that used to be with Kelby One. He's on his own, and he does have a Photoshop Virtual Summit coming up. If you're interested in it, you can contact him at dcross and send him an email. He'll send you a link. It's a free summit, although if you pay for it, you can then watch the videos over and over again. So that's my quick, although it was almost 25 minutes. So we'll open this up to other people and see what you guys are using. Or is there somebody that you guys follow that I don't? I'm always looking for new photographers to follow and, YouTube videos to watch and that. So is there any that you guys have?
There's a whole group of guys that are doing YouTube videos. That's kind of, they share sometimes and they do them together. And the group of them, it includes Nick Page, Sean Bagshaw, I think, is sometimes with them. I think he does a lot of teaching, so I think a lot of people have heard of him. Thomas Heaton, Adam Gibb, Gavin Hardcastle. Those are all a group of YouTubers who are doing photography videos. Gavin Hardcastle's shtick is humor. He does silly little funny stuff. He's trying to do real humorous videos, so he's kind of fun to follow. But Nick Page is probably one of the most instructional. He gives a lot. I've watched some of his YouTube videos on how to pick tripods, how to pick filters, what all the filters are. He gives a lot of information. Sean Bagshaw is teamed up with Tony Kuiper that does the TK Kuiper filters for
Oh, okay.
luminosity filters for Photoshop. So he does all the videos for Tony Kuiper on how to use the filters. And he sells all his own videos on how to do like luminosity masking and stuff in Photoshop.
I have a question.
Sure.
You mentioned that you have an online Nikon group. Is there an online Canon group?
I have no idea, actually.
Does
Since
anyone?
I'm not a Canon guy, I don't know. Anybody that has Canon,
I have Canon,
Good.
I shoot with Canon, but I'm not that familiar with any groups like that. I'm sure they're out there. I see advertisements all the time on Instagram for Canon Australia, so I'm sure there's one here in America too.
Okay, thank you.
You know, I'm a Fuji user, and there's a whole bunch of Fuji user type of photographers and, of course, websites and YouTube. But I'm pretty much with you on most of your stuff that you had there, Jeff. Another guy I like quite a bit is Brian Peterson.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I forgot about him.
He's quite a character, I tell you. I signed up for a workshop with him in Chicago this summer, and I'm looking forward to it because he comes across as being one. I met him once at an out of Chicago conference, and he just comes across as a real hoot to go out and shoot with. But he's pretty. He's entertaining, but he's also very basic in how he approaches shooting, and he always puts up a couple videos every month wherever he's at doing something, sometimes with a model, but he's very basic in his approach to all of his photography, which I like.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Yeah, I like Matt Kelby one, of course, but there's some guys that are related to Fuji. Andy Mumford is a landscape photographer, and he uses the Fuji system like I do, so he gets fantastic results. Of course, he goes to fantastic places too, so that helps a little bit.
yeah, that always does help, doesn't it?
And David Duchyman, I'm probably mispronouncing it, David Duchyman, he's quite a guy when it comes to philosophy. His Craft and Vision is his website. And he's produced a lot of books, kind of stuff like that. So it makes me a little tired reading his books because he gets into the thought process quite a bit.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff. But he's good. To listen to him speak, he's a very good speaker. So.
Well, I can show you guys. I follow like 90 YouTube channels. If you want to guys see some of the YouTube channels I watch, pay attention to. If you want me to share the screen real quick, I can go through it real quick.
Sure, if you want to go through it quick. Oh. Just don't play any of the YouTubes. Because otherwise we'll get kicked off. Oh,
Clint, go to your subscriber list.
Yeah. Clint, you're muted.
Let me, okay, here we go.
There you go.
Sorry about that. So you can see Tony and Chelsea I follow, right? You guys can see that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's one person I watch. I like watching this Jared guy with some of the reviews on the different type of cameras.
Yep.
Mark does the Sony with Sony products. I watched this Jason guy. He does some really good reviews too. Some of the, I think he does some nature photography. Here's a Fuji. What I'm gonna do, let's see here. like I said, I'm just kind of going through these kind of somewhat quick. This woman does a really good job on photography for, you know, portraits and models and weddings. Some of these do, what do you say, nature photography, landscape, also drones, videos. I like some of the tutorials some of these people use. And then some what you mentioned, Jeff. I have this guy.
Nick Page, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry if I'm going through these kind of quick because I got quite a few. I also can send Jeff a link to maybe have people's forward these to other people in our club.
Well, the nice part is too, people can go back in the YouTube that we put out, and they can take a look and at least find the names too. But well, yeah, otherwise, I'll start making a list, and because it's always interesting.
What's nice is with the YouTube channels too, you can see like, oh yeah, I'm on the right, you know, Matt, you know, the right Matt individual guy. So this is it with using, let me close this one out. Okay, here's the other one I use. So with using Stream Deck, all I got to do is push a button and I open up all these YouTube channels right away. So I don't follow these guys every single day because there's just too much time, because, you know, with my flying that I like to learn, you know, for YouTube, also RVs, I have over 650 YouTube channels I watch or follow. So things get kind of pretty crazy. There's just not enough time in a day to do it. And usually,
well, yeah, that's for sure.
most of the stuff I use twice the speed, so I can go through here twice as fast. So if I don't quite understand it, well, then maybe I'll slow down the speed, but I just don't have time to watch all this stuff.
Well, I got to admit, I do watch my YouTube stuff at 1.5 speed, because it keeps my attention better.
Correct. Well, and then too, in that there are sometimes they're a little bit slower on speaking in that. But some of these tutorials, you know, they do like a wonderful job, like this Justin guy. I think some of them are really great with, you know, Photoshop and Lightroom. You know, and I'm sure that each one of us in our camera club and also digital forum, they have different niches, you know, like, oh, I follow this individual, like, oh, I got to follow this guy. And then with some of them, they have a camera equipment review, and that it's like some of the camera equipment is like, oh, that would be actually nice to help with my photography.
Yeah, and I didn't even get into the video stuff that I'm doing. So,
and here you can see with the aerial photography, you know, with the drones and stuff like that. It's amazing on some of these pictures where they fly through a house and that, you know, doing real estate. It's like, wow, this is really, really wonderful.
Well, Clint, I don't know how you managed to go through all these.
Well, I organized it, and it's nice to be, you know, each one has, you know, like I said, I do photography, so that has their own. You just let me close through some.
I hate some of those that do autoplay. That
yeah. Well, you know, I think you guys get the idea, you know. So I'll stop the share. So, but as you can see, I watch a few people that I enjoy, you know.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind sharing my top 3 or 4 photographers. It's mostly I look at landscape photographers, and there's the YouTube that I mentioned. I saw some of those in Clinton's
Sure.
list.
Go ahead.
But
Brenda.
I have, you know, you got to ask: is it your top photographers for teaching photography, or is it your top photographers, you know, that you like? And I think my 3 top photographers in the whole world. I'll show you their web pages.
And I like what you said there is what do you want to learn from them? Because some of them are, you know, just for a learning aspect, which is great.
Yeah. I think the person that I've learned the most from, and I've traveled all over the world with, is Daniel. His Russian name is Korzunov, but he's been using the name in America and in the Western world. He's been using Daniel Cordon, and I think he's right now my top photographer in the world for landscape photography. And then travel photographer. I don't know if any of you guys have heard Elia Lucardi. He's a guy that started traveling, gave up his home and started traveling about, well, it was 10 years ago when the pandemic set in, and he's had to settle down now. But he's been working with SmugMug to do a series of videos that you might be interested in. That's kind of like what's Anthony Bourdain, except for it has to do with photography instead of food. And on his website, I think he probably lists his trips to, it's a series called Moments in Time. And he said he was going to pick that up again when the pandemic's over, but he's been traveling around the world like Anthony Bourdain does. And they're kind of interesting to watch, kind of fun videos to watch. The top 2 photographer in the world, I think right now for me, competing with Daniel, is Albert Drost out of Amsterdam. And all 3 of these guys have their workshop videos that you can buy if you're interested in learning their techniques for how to take and process videos. But Albert Drost is up and coming. And so I think you're going to probably hear more about him. And a couple of websites for specific things for learning about some of the photography is, there's a guy in Chicago he travels all over, but he's settled in Chicago. His family's from Chicago for the pandemic. And he does his name is Ian Norman, and he does a website called Lonely Speck for astronomy photographers. He actually sells some filters that help you get better things from the stars, and he does a lot. You guys might have heard of him. And the other thing that has a lot of videos that they have about a weekly video on how to do with different, he does different photographers come in and they do about a weekly video on how to shoot something. And here it's from PhotoPills. I don't know if you're familiar with the PhotoPills software, but they're out of Madrid, and they usually do a weekly video with some of the photographers around the world. It's not just astrophotography, it's anything that PhotoPills you can plan photos for astronomy or shooting the moon or whatever, things that PhotoPills helps you plan. So you guys might be interested.
That's a great app, that PhotoPills. It's worth having on your phone.
They do the videos at 7 p.m. usually on Thursdays, I think, and it's our time. It's about 1 in the afternoon. But they usually, if you email them and get on their mailing list, they will send you the video, the link to the video after they do it live. So it's kind of fun to join in live. So that's my top list.
No, thank you for sharing. It's really nice because I never seen any of these people in that.
More to add to your list, Clinton.
Yeah, I don't have enough in that.
Anybody else got some to share?
Jeff, you were saying that you're going to send out a PDF file with these links to that I can add to my 10,000.
Yeah, I just put it in the chat, so it's in the chat there. You should be able to see it.
Thank you.
Let me show you, just give you an idea. This Kim Illman really does some neat racing photography. and I just found them the other day just by chance. So let's see. Yeah, I thought I hit the gallery. He does quite a few different. He's out of Australia, so he's sort of interesting. Another guy that I do follow, Mangelson. He does a lot of nice nature photography. It's pretty much he has stores around the country that you can buy his artwork, and I think his nature stuff is just super. And then one other guy that I just love his work. I'll never be able to afford to buy any of it, but Peter Lick has some really great. He just turns out a piece every couple of months, and his stuff is. He has his own galleries in a number of different places across the country, but he's figured out how to create fine art work that just blows me away sometimes. I mean, there's a lot of good photographers out there, but he has some interesting stuff. And then just to make sure that, so I can promote her for next week, or next month, I should say. This is Jennifer Renwick, and it's jenniferrenwick.com. She has a lot of nice, peaceful nature and landscape photography, and it will be interesting to talk with her next month. She has just a little different philosophies about how she shoots. Let's see, there's her galleries. But you can sort of see that her stuff is got abstracts. You can look at her new releases here. But it's always interesting. I mean, I'm always on the lookout for new photographers, so I'll add a bunch of what Clint has, and anybody else's that I'll scrape through this video again to grab a few more names. But yeah, I've only covered photographers, and I've got a lot of videographers that I follow as well, because I'm more into learning about how to do videography as much as photography these days.
Jeff,
But it does get to be a problem figuring out how to watch all this.
Jeff, almost everyone we've listed here has been mostly male photographers. So there's 4 landscape female photographers. I'll put it in the chat box in case anyone's interested. Sapna Reddy is a photographer out of San Francisco that does a lot of workshops in the Southwest, in Utah and California. She's a really good landscape photographer. Serena Zenes hasn't been very active lately, but she used to be Serena Ho out of Australia, and she's now in Iceland. She got married a year or 2 ago, and she's been pretty quiet, but she's starting to make pictures again. Danny I don't know how to pronounce her name, Lafrancois. She's a landscape photographer up in Western Canada. She does a lot of the Banff pictures and stuff like that, especially in the winter. And Rachel Jones Ross is also either up in Canada or in the American Northwest. I think she goes up to Alaska a lot too. She's hardcore when it comes to wintertime photography. She's going to be at the Photopeals camp, so I'll probably meet her in May. But her photography, she's cold weather, hardcore cold weather. She did one of the Photopeals videos a month or so ago, and talked about how she prepares for cold weather photography and such. But that's for women that are really active in landscape photography.
Yeah, that's interesting as well.
One other
So-
person that you might be interested in following, there was a guy that I met in JFK at the lounge that was coming through, having just done a workshop in Iceland, and I spent almost the whole day sitting and talking to him. His name is Denny, Mark Denny. I kept calling him Matt, and I felt really bad, but he was a speaker at the Outsiders Conference in Utah in April, and he's one of the YouTube video guys, and he talked a lot about that. And I watched one of his videos, and he's really good. He explains some interesting stuff and explains it on a real layman's level so that us ordinary photographers can understand it. And he was kind of good to watch.
A couple of years ago on the virtual summit, he was one of the presenters. And all of them were real good, but that's where I know his name from.
On which summit?
I think it was 2 years ago.
On Outsiders or out of
No,
Chicago?
it's the one that was mentioned just earlier, the virtual summit that's coming up in
David
in
Cross.
David
Yes.
Cross's, yeah.
Yeah, and David Cross and Mark Denny were, presented in that virtual summit that I saw.
Yeah, I agree. He's real good too. Really nice.
And Luminar does have a group that meets. Sid Freeman got me into that one for a while. They meet on at noontime all the time, talking about Luminar, different functions and features and such. I think if you go onto the Luminar site, you would probably be able to sign up for that as well. If a person wanted to learn more on Luminar.
They certainly have YouTube videos galore. So
Yeah. So
There's another guy that does light painting. I don't know if there's people here interested in light painting, but there's a guy out of Canada named Eric Parray, and he goes all over the world shooting his girlfriend or significant other, Kim Smith, and he sells tubes. I don't know if you've seen any of the pictures of the tubes that he has her standing in front, and he circles them and makes beautiful circles with reflections and all kinds of things. He's become pretty well known for that, and he has a group called the Tube Tribe that buys his videos and goes out and shoots. But he's kind of interesting too.
yeah, Dave Black does nice light painting as well. He has a lot of stuff that he does out west, and he's also a great sport photographer as well. Shot a lot of Olympics and that.
His name sounds familiar. Where's he out of?
He was he did a lot of stuff with Kelby One for a while. Now I think he's on his own. I haven't followed him for a while, but he did a lot of neat light painting between using just small flashlights to big spotlights and doing big canyons and that, where he would light everything up with these huge million candle power floodlights that he would be plugged into his car, and he could just shine a whole canyon area to light paint it. So yeah, my list could keep growing depending on. I did my more current people. I do have a whole ton of them that are ones that I follow periodically, but
I forget how long ago it was. It was on Channel 6 News. there's a local photographer in the Milwaukee area, and he does drone pictures and that, and it's incredible with, you know, the sunrise and sunset over, you know, Lake Michigan and Milwaukee, downtown Milwaukee. It's beautiful. I tried to find his website, but I can't find it right now. I got too many websites on my computer.
He's I know, I was trying to think of his name. I've been following him, and I actually contacted him and asked him if I could go out shooting with him.
And I thought about you on that because you like your drone, and that would be great. And I checked out his website. It's beautiful website, how he has it laid out.
Yeah, but he refused to go out with me. He just said, sorry, I don't have time. Rather curt response.
Yeah, some photographers are that way.
You know, you can be careful nowadays too, unfortunately, you know.
Yeah, I think he does a lot of shooting. I think part of the, frankly, I think part of the reason he didn't want to go out with other people is because I look at some of his photos and he's not really legal when it comes to drone photography, I don't think. I mean, I've seen him shooting over that big parade that they had downtown for the, what was the Brewers, when they had the parade after their championship. And he had shots over the crowds and things like that, which is totally illegal unless you have permission from the city. And some other things that I've seen. So I think he wants to keep on the down and low as far as.
Yeah, there's so many different rules and regulations. I know we talked about that with the drone and that, like you can fly over to people, you can't hover over, you know, that's when you really need to get your license to for your drone. So you're more coverage, you know, so there's not maybe hopefully as much legal issues.
Yeah, a lot of legal issues with drones. I think it's getting worse.
Yeah,
It's sad, but that's true. You know, it's some people, you know, and it's hard because you don't want to, you know, say ignorance. You don't want to say part of the ignorance is, you know, an excuse in that. But then there's some gray areas like I had no clue that was, you know, illegal to do.
I think that's exactly what it is, Clint, is there's a lot of gray area. There's a lot of misinformation out there, like everything. And Rama, you're right. I mean, he probably is doing some things that maybe he shouldn't be doing, knowing better, but he still does it. Part of it has just been lack of enforcement. And I think that we're going to see more and more of that in the near future, especially once they get the remote ID all implemented fully. Then I really think we're going to see an uptick in enforcement because right now it's another gray area, right? Who really is there to enforce some of this? Well, once that becomes implemented, it'll be really defined who does, like whether it's local police or sheriffs or whoever, they'll have a lot more policing power for things like that. And right now that just doesn't truly exist.
Yeah. Well, I did tell you the story about trying to launch my drone here at Grobschmidt Park, a few blocks from where I live, and I couldn't even get it. I just wanted to go up 10 or 15 feet to get over the trees or a better shot, and it wouldn't take off because it was
some of that though. Some of that is DJI being a little bit too policing on their part, which I don't really agree with, and yet they're doing it and they're getting away with it. So because I ran into that myself.
Yeah, and so I'm wondering what's going to happen when they have that ID implemented. Is there a certain amount of over policing around that too?
Yeah.
Well, can't you override some of that stuff? I thought.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. It's a bit of a process, but you absolutely can. But well, the first time I ran into it, I'm like, the heck is going on? You know, I was in an area, I had clear shot from before you fly, and so basically the FAA said, yeah, it's good to go, but DJI said nope. So then you have to go into DJI's website, show where you're going to be at, get a code to put in to say, okay, this is when I'm going to fly here, and now I can fly there. And it just shouldn't be that way. DJI shouldn't have that much influence over even the FAA, for instance.
Kind of like having a flight plan, what you're describing.
Exactly what DJI is saying. Okay, and the only reason that I ran into it was I was close enough to the Stevens Point Airport, which is an uncontrolled tower, and I was directly under one of the landing paths. But again, before you fly, said, "Yep, you're good to go." DJI said, "No, we're not going to let you fly there." So I couldn't complete the assignment that I was hired to do because of that at that time. So
Yeah. Crazy. We got one more name came through on the chat, Tim Holt. Very friendly and has some great photos. So
Jeff,
another
I
guy.
got one last thing I'd like to share kind of outside of
Sure.
this, but you did attend our Apple user group meeting, and there's a group.
Yeah, I did want you to talk about that a little bit. So,
okay. So and I know Pat, you asked about that, and along with a couple of the others. But there's another group out there that some of you may be interested in, and it's the Naples Mac Friends user group worldwide. This has gotten to be, because of Zoom, a huge group. There's over 400 members now. I think they figured by in the next few months they'll be at 600 members. But right now, they do have a free membership up until the end of May to try them out and see. But for what they offer, if you are available to attend their meetings, you would be well served to look into this group if you are a Mac user and you're interested in this. Pretty cheap fee to join, but if you go to, stop sharing. Sorry, I changed pages. I should not have done that. Go to their website, so which is hidden right now.
here, I can tell you what it is because
NaplesMug.com.
Yeah.
So for any of you Mac users out there, this would be a really good group to look into. My only challenge with them is that their main meetings are during the middle of the day, of course, which, you know, when you work for a living, you can't do that. So, but locally, if you are interested, again, we do have our Wisconsin group, which is Central Wisconsin Apple User Group. So cwaug.org, and we meet on the third Sunday evening each month. And again, if you just contact us through the website, you can get on the mailing list, and we'll get you a link for the Zoom. We're going to be taking this group more statewide. We found out that there was a group in Appleton that doesn't exist anymore, and I don't know how active the Milwaukee group is. So kind of following the lead of Naples, we're going to try and make a concerted effort of being a little broader than just Central Wisconsin. So both good groups if you are Mac users and you're looking to find out more information about them.
Yeah, and I had heard about the Chicago group. Had you?
Yeah, there's several Apple user groups down in the Chicago area as well.
Yeah.
In fact, worldwide, because I actually belong to a group that is a group of Apple Mac user group leadership. And last meeting we had members from, aside from the US, from Belgium, Finland, UK, Australia, Greece, and I think there was one or two more. So it's truly a worldwide group that, and basically the premise is that we can all help each other learn how to have better groups. Kind of what, you know, this group does for local camera clubs and our chapter does for local camera clubs. So we're all in this together, guys.
Yep.
Well, we got a lot of great information, a lot of websites, a lot of YouTube channels, a lot of groups to go see and visit, and that there's a lot of great information today.
Yep.
Yeah, beware of Creative Live though. For Jeff, you mentioned Creative Live, and They offer such good sales and stuff that I've ended up buying videos that I have on my hard drive that I haven't had time to look at yet.
Well, yeah, that does tend to be a trick, and you can watch a lot of them for free, or I don't know if you can still watch them for free or not, but they're just a good place for when I needed like Final Cut Pro. I needed to learn how to use it, and they had a nice series that I could just buy and download and then use as reference. And so yeah, but all of them, yeah, it can get to be. I tend from Creative Live, I buy what I want so that I have it.
Yeah. Yeah, but when they
yeah.
offer you $11 for a course or something, send out specials, then you go and look at it and, oh yeah, I want to see that. And then you download it, and I have so many, don't have time to look at them.
Yep.
It's kind of like 300, like Clinton said, 300 YouTube channels.
Yeah, I have a
650.
ton of courses sitting in my Dropbox waiting for me to watch, and haven't gotten to half of them yet. So, but yeah, because I do tend to buy them. I do the same for Matt Kliskowski. I buy a bunch of his courses because they're great for reference when you want to go back to it. And so, and a lot of Matt's stuff isn't super expensive, so I got a bunch of his courses too sitting there. But
there's a lot of free stuff though on YouTube.
Yeah, you can really do most of it for free. YouTube's got such a big source. It's a great source for info. Although you got to watch some of them as well. You got to make sure you check some of these guys out. I've got some that pass on a lot of poor information, and so I've stopped watching them as well. But yep. So I see we've hit noon. So just a reminder, we got Jason Odell for the WACO seminar March 5th. You can sign up. Go to the WACO website for that. Next month for Digital Forum will be Jennifer Renwick. And it'll just pretty much, she's not teaching anything. We're just going to be interviewing her and talking. So bring your questions. Hopefully you'll have questions for her. We'll have her show some of her artwork. She's got a lot of nice artwork, and how she pretty much comes to shooting, how she shoots, and some of that type of questions is what we'll get into. So it should be an interesting hour for the March Digital Forum. So other than that, that's all I've got for today. I thank everybody for coming. We had over 40 people this time, so that's great.
Thank you. Very interesting meeting.
So,
thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, it was
all
another
right.
great meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yes.